gas fleet runs at somewhere between 40 and 50% efficiency at most. I'm being really generous.
Yes.
And the rest of it's just going up into space as heat. What a waste of those molecules. I think it's terrible. Whereas instead you could use that same gas, even if you used the gas, which might be abhorrent, right, to a lot of people, but even if you used that, but you generated energy closer to the point of use, instead of wasting the heat
in the transmission, you're not going to waste all that energy in the transmission.
It just when it goes into the energy center, instead of half goes into electricity, instead of the other half just disappearing, capture it and use it for hot water or heating or cooling.
So to get to the point, fracking is not beyond the pale, but if you are going to frack, then make sure that you're doing it close to the end point of use.
And you don't disturb the environment, you don't set off earthquakes. And I think in a country like ours, which is wasting most of its energy, you mentioned the point earlier, what's the point of generating more energy if you're going to waste it? I write a blog every couple of weeks, every month. I had to drew a picture of a bath. I think this is the analogy. You're pouring beautiful new energy into a bathtub, but there's a hole in the bottom of it.
Exactly. Now, just on Putin very briefly, because I want to get John in. Go on. Well, what about Putin? What's he up to? What do you think in terms of energy security and what the plan is?
Well, the big issue when Russia invaded Ukraine was that Europe generally was cut off from its energy gas supply. Specifically, it sent gas markets spiraling, and gas it's not just the physical gas, it's the price. Right, so that's the issue. There's now effectively an energy security commission which has been set up to look at energy crisis commission, which has been set up precisely to look at Tony's question, right? What happens next? Because what happens when there's another energy security crisis? As it happens, Europe has done a pretty decent job, but all it's done is basically switch reliance on Russia to reliance on the United States.
Well, I thought it was meant to be, as Olaf Scholz said, the German Chancellor, just a couple of days after Russia invaded Ukraine, it was meant to be Einheit Zeitenwende, an epoch-changing moment. Well, we'll see how changing it was. John, thank you, Tony, for your call, by the way. John in Guildford, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure. What would you like to ask?
I'm a big solution man rather than pointing fingers. So there is hundreds and thousands of massive warehouses, flat roof warehouses, that in my opinion aren't being utilised for solar panels. The power company should install them and pay for them and then claim finances back. I mean, I've been all over the country. I know most of England, Scotland, and there is thousands of massive warehouses that can be utilised. I don't know why.
Good point. And also logistics centres as well. Rooftop solar.
Big opportunity. Completely agree that we don't have enough of it. There are some technical issues. So I agree. There are some issues. People will tell you, well, who owns the roof? Is it old? If you install a panel, can it stay up there for long enough? But generally speaking, you're absolutely right. Now, the European Commission, the government here, we've got a new government, a big opportunity for make a change, right? So let's be positive and solutions based.
Yes,
you're absolutely right that rooftop solar, not just on warehouses, but across commercial buildings, industrial buildings, right across the UK, and across government buildings, hospitals, could be used to generate electricity. Even in this country, it's sunny enough, it's light enough, I should say, but here's the thing, we don't really have the policy framework yet which incentivizes it or requires it. There's no requirement. Now, in Europe, the European Commission over the last couple of years have facilitated this. They've opened it up and they've actually said to public buildings, you've got to do it.
Right.
And you've got to say to commercial industrial companies, you've got to do it unless there's technical restraint.
This is where government can be an enabler of change. We'll see what happens. John, very good question. Thank you for your call.
Last point on John's question, in about 2019, I'm doing this because I've invested in this stuff in the UK, it became cheaper to install solar panels on a commercial building and use the electricity than to buy it from the grid.
How interesting. John, thank you for your call. Great question. Simon in Colston in Surrey, good evening.
Hi there.
What would you like to ask?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I've really enjoyed it so far.
Good.
What I would like to ask, I'm a landlord. We were told we were going to have to raise the EPC ratings on our properties to C by this year. It's now changed to 2030. But in the meantime, I spent a lot of time looking into how we can do it for various properties, and I would be very interested to know what your opinion is of the energy performance certificate in general, because I think that it doesn't count lots of things that we could do to improve our energy performance, but will give us no points whatsoever.
What do you think? Thanks, Sam.
You know, I first of all, I think it's a step in the right direction, right? Having some sort of framework and certification process, it starts to put regulation around something which could be very good for the country, just waste less. Like, I don't think public sector, but I think public sector should tidy up its own backyard first, by the way, before it can start to preach to the private sector. But for private landlords, frankly, if they're wasting energy, it's a good thing for them if they stop doing that. But you've got to give them a few things. First of all, the technology's got to be there. It is, right? So lighting, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, insulation, building management systems, controls. We do lack a bit of capacity in the UK from a skills and implementation and supply chain perspective. But I think that the basic idea behind EPC is a pretty good one. But the government, first of all, needs to lead by example, and then second of all, then we do need a better rollout of these technologies. What I would also say, having said that, is that you mentioned the fact that EPC doesn't cover some of these technology interventions. I would say that's an issue not just in the commercial sector, but in the domestic sector too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have I got a minute to talk about this?
30 seconds.
Yeah. Tried to do this in my house, right? So I own a grade 2 listed house in central London. It's a bit of a pain to get planning consent for everything. I think I spent £8,000 on not on any equipment, just on planning consultants and applications to get a heat pump on my roof, which I'm delighted I did. Yeah. But I've got a heat pump, I've got battery, I've got thermal batteries, and I've got electric boiler, and I haven't got a cent of market incentive.
Wow.
So my house is basically can run heat off the grid. I've got no gas. I'm full LED.
Wow.
But there is a flaw in the way. I do agree. There's a flaw in the way that the market incentives are structured in this country.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon, for your call. Fascinating discussion so far. I'm in conversation with Jonathan Maxwell, the founder and CEO of Sustainable Development Capital Limited. It's listed on the London Stock Exchange. It's a very, very big player in the energy efficiency and transition space. And Jonathan's written this book, The Edge, How Competition for Resources is Pushing the World and Its Climate to the Brink, and What We Can Do About It. It's a very challenging book. It's very stark, but it's also very positive in actually what we can do positively to move this whole discussion on, particularly how we can actually reduce wastage, energy wastage in the system. If you want to ask Jonathan a question on anything to do with net zero, climate transition, energy efficiency, rooftop solar, boiler, whatever you want to talk about, Jonathan's your man. 0345 6060973, text 84850, ask Alexa to send a comment to LBC. Annie Mirage in for Ian Dale on LBC. 8:41 news headlines with Dale Jackson.
British tech entrepreneur Mike Lynch is being remembered as a genius as his death was confirmed on board a sunken super yacht off the coast of Sicily. His daughter Hannah is still missing. Up to 3 dogs could be on the loose near Birmingham, with police already seizing 2 where a man was found dead in his garden. As one of the American bulldog type animals is thought to have attacked him. A Romanian court has placed Andrew Tate under house arrest. Prosecutors have asked for the controversial social media person